Hello, this is Jen McKee, and we are back with our final part of our Wheelchair Skills online training course. In Module 3, Part 1, we talked about wheelie skills, on-level transfers, and negotiating stairs. And in Part 2, we'll be covering some wheelchair sports and activities. There are so many different wheelchair sports out there. This is a graphic that highlights some of the sports available through the Paralympics, including archery, badminton, canoeing, cycling, football, goalball, judo, powerlifting, shooting, swimming, table tennis, wheelchair basketball, and wheelchair fencing. Now, we all know the importance of being active, and we know the benefits of physical activity and of exercise, and there are guidelines out there for the general population as well as for individuals with spina bifida specifically. So because people who have physical disabilities are often less likely to be active and more likely to have sedentary behaviors, that can lead to a lot of other health complications down the road. So I just wanted to take a moment to share with you some of the guidelines that are for healthcare practitioners, like general practitioners. And hopefully this will help you think of some questions to ask your GP next time you have a visit, regardless of how old your kid is, just to make sure you're addressing physical activity as part of your frequent healthcare checkup. So for children who are aged 3 to 6, the Spina Bifida Association Physical Activity Guidelines suggest that you talk to your healthcare provider, or the healthcare providers talk to you about the importance of involving your child in recreation, physical activity, limiting sedentary behaviors, and engaging in social programs and services where they can be actively engaged with peers who have and those who do not have a disability. You can request some information about the lifelong benefits of physical activity. For example, there has been a study showing that active adults with spina bifida report more functional independence and a higher quality of life compared to those with spina bifida who are inactive. You can also discuss some strategies that will help balance parental involvement in your child's physical activity and the child's need for autonomy to increase independence. And that starts at a really young age. And also, it's important to talk about any precautions that a child with shunts or ambulatory limitations should take when being physically active. It's important to work with a team of physio and occupational therapists to ensure that children have proper fitting mobility equipment to maximize their participation in physical activity. And finally, hopefully we're able to talk a little bit about ways to advocate for physical activity goals to be implemented in school, since school is where children spend so much of their time. It's where they have a lot of opportunities for growth and for engagement. In the U.S., physical activity goals can be implemented into the individualized education plans or IEPs for children. And I'm not sure about the structure in Ireland, but I think it's a really important thing to consider when meeting with your healthcare providers as well as with the teachers and other faculty at schools. And all of these can be found from the Spina Bifida Association.org. What I have in these bubbles is pretty much taken directly from that. So for children 6 through 12, all of the same things that I just read through apply, as well as these children should be following the National Physical Activity Guidelines unless a healthcare provider advises that they are medically unsafe. And those guidelines state that every person should engage in 60 minutes of physical activity or more every day, including the following 3 days per week. So 3 days per week, we want to include some vigorous intensity aerobic activity, muscle strengthening activities, and bone strengthening activities. And this can be through sport, or it can simply be through activity throughout the day. It's important at this point, especially as we transition into those teenage years, we want to help use healthcare encounters and follow-up meetings to develop physical activity goals and to monitor progress, as well as to identify strategies to minimize the risk of illness and injury related to participation through activity adaptations and safety precautions. So you might not be able to participate in a specific sport or activity the way that it traditionally is played, but perhaps with some adaptations and some special considerations, you're going to be able to do that just fine. And then finally, for children who are getting a little bit older and becoming more independent, it's important to address any personal barriers such as bowel and bladder care, medical events, assistive devices, and environmental factors that could be affecting participation. So here are a few different websites for for resources for wheelchair sports. These are all specific to Ireland. So the first one, except for the first one, disabledworld.com/sports provides you with a nice list of different wheelchair sports and extreme sports and the Paralympic specific sports. So it's nice to browse through there, and you can use that site just to educate yourself on what's available out there. Paralympics.ie is the Irish Paralympics site, and Paralympic.org is the general Paralympic organization site. Special Olympics is also another organization specific for people with intellectual disabilities, perhaps if you or your child is somebody who is affected by hydrocephalus. IWA Sport, the Irish Wheelchair Association, has so many resources and clubs all over the country, and the Cara Center is also a really fantastic resource. Ableize.com/Disability Ireland is another resource that just has some information about different wheelchair sports and clubs in the area. So I encourage you to take a minute, take some time and explore some of these different websites to see what clubs might be close to you. Most of these websites are pretty easy to navigate, and if you have any questions or you're not finding what you're looking for, they have people that you can reach out to and contact for more assistance. So some of the sports that we're just going to be going through real quickly are wheelchair basketball, hand cycling, sitting volleyball, equestrian, and tennis. I'm just going to show you a couple different videos in each of these bubbles here to help with the exposure, to help you get you exposed to what might be involved in these sports. And each of these bubbles will also have a resource link at the bottom in case it's something that you're interested in and you want to find more information about it. So wheelchair basketball is quite common. It's a pretty popular sport, and some of the resources we have available to us in Ireland are IWA Sport, the Irish Wheelchair Association, and basketballireland.ie. In the Irish Wheelchair Association, just to note, their junior league caters for children ages 5 through 15. We'll watch this about the transition year tournament to start. This really is such a great sport, and we can see how so many of those skills that we've been practicing and working on over the last 3 modules really come into this sport environment. This is just another quick video here, just showing some younger kids playing in the sport. This is at a tournament in the US. And you can see like the wheelchairs look a little bit different. It doesn't mean that you need a special wheelchair to start playing these games, but a lot of clubs will have the wheelchair basketball wheelchairs available for you to try. And wheelchair basketball is really great. You can practice this one at home if you just have maybe a garbage bin or a bucket or a laundry basket and a basketball or a balloon or even some paper that you crunch up into a big wad. And you can try to pass the ball to each other and shoot it into the basket on the floor, and that can be a little home basketball game. Hand cycling is another really fantastic sport. Cyclingireland.ie has a paracycling page where you can find out more information, and you can reach out to some contacts for information about equipment as well. There are a lot of different types of hand cycles. Some people opt for a hand cycle that you transfer out of your wheelchair into the hand cycle, and they can be upright hand cycles or they can be recumbent where you're laying back a little bit more. Other people prefer to have an attachment for their wheelchair so they don't have to transfer it anywhere. It's just something that they can bring along with them in the car and put onto the front of their wheelchair when they're ready to go. So we'll just show a couple different videos here. The first one is of a community hand cycling event in the US. I think those community type events are pretty common in the US, at least in places where I was located, and they can be really great because through community funding or sponsorship or fundraising, some organizations were able to acquire a number of different hand cycles that participants could just show up and try one of those hand cycles. They didn't have to have their own. It was provided by the organization. So that might be something that can be started up in your area, because anybody, able-bodied or wheelchair user, can take part in hand cycling. This is just another quick video. This is a different kind of structured hand cycle. I believe it's one where you just attach it onto the front of the chair. And this just shows that, it's something that can be done anywhere that a typical bike or a scooter or any other event is happening. And it really helps to facilitate that engagement with family, with friends, with peers. So there are a lot of different options out there, and I encourage you to look and see what sort of equipment is available to you in your area, what kind of equipment, if it's something that you love, what style of equipment is going to be the best for your child and what will grow with your child, and see if there are any other, individuals or teams or clubs in your area that can help foster that social support and that kind of group dynamic. Sitting volleyball is the next sport that we're going to be covering. Sitting volleyball is a little bit different than the previous sports because we are transferring out of our chair onto the floor for this game. This can be played again by anybody if you're at home and you have a volleyball or any kind of a light ball or a balloon available to you. Everyone can just get on the floor and start volleying back and forth, and it's a really nice activity that can be easy to do in most environments. So this first video that we're going to play is just showing exactly that. It's just showing some sitting volleyball practice with balloons, and the kids are just going to be moving back and forth by scooting around. And before we start that, I want to point out that volleyballireland.com has a sitting volleyball page on their website where you can find out more information about the location of clubs and who to contact for more resources. So in this video, we just show how easy it really is to practice sitting volleyball. You don't need a net necessarily to play this game or to have fun with it. It's just kind of scooting around using the volleyballs, practicing that hand-eye coordination. It's really great for your trunk control and for your arm strength. And then we'll go ahead and look at a Paralympic game, that high-level game. It's a very fast-paced game. It's a great game if you want to look into that a little bit more. I love watching the Paralympic sports just to get an idea of how highly competitive and how fast-paced they can get. When you start playing this with a group of school children, or even myself when I play this in university, it tends to be more people sitting in place trying to reach out for the ball until they find they have that body awareness, just like what we talk about in the wheelchair, to move across the court. So it's really nice to be able to see how you progress with these sports when you first start out. So equestrian sports are the next one, and our resource here is RDA, or Riding for the Disabled, rdaireland.org. Riding for the Disabled, known as the RDA, is a UK charity that provides equine activities for children and adults with disabilities for therapy, achievement and fun. 2019 has been a memorable year for the organisation as it moved to a new national centre in Warwickshire that celebrates 50 years of operation. That could be a really valuable resource just to see, what's available in your area and how to get involved. Paralympic equestrian made its debut in 1984, and it's been a regular fixture in the games since Atlanta in 1996. The equestrian competition consists purely of dressage, and there are 3 different tests of varying difficulties. A team test with 3 or 4 runners per team, an individual championship test made of predetermined movements in a specific order, and a freestyle test where the competitors choose both the movement and music. That just gives you some insight as to what it looks like from the Paralympic perspective. Our final sport that we'll cover today will be tennis, and tennisireland.ie has a list of different clubs available in the area. So this first video is going to be about a boy who won the gold medal at a tennis event, and the second video will be of a high-level tennis athlete, just talking a little bit about his experience. So again, you can see like people who participate in sport are engaged and they get something out of it from every level, from that beginner level up through that Paralympic highly competitive level. And that really wraps it up for us in this wheelchair online training course. So take some time, go through the resources that have been made available to you through the previous modules as well as through this module for wheelchair sports. You can check out all the videos and incredible information available from the Irish Wheelchair Association at iwasport.com, and you can check out some resources from the CARA website, from caracenter.ie, including a really great home exercise workflow. So they have, under their resource tab on their website, they have an entire home exercise section with a lot of really great ideas for seated exercises and standing exercises if you're looking for some different ways to get active while spending more time than you might be used to at home. So thank you so much for sticking through these 3 modules. I hope you got something out of them. If anything, I hope you got some questions out of the content that was presented. And I just want to finish up here with one last video. This is from the Irish Wheelchair Association, and what I like about this video is it just gives you some more insight to the types of sports and activities that are available.